Next speaker brings decades of expertise in safety equipment systems and certification processes. Mr. Bhushan Poshe, Managing Director of Allied Safety Equipments Private Limited, has extensive experience in industrial and adventure safety equipment, inspection protocols, and certification systems. His work has focused strongly on strengthening awareness around equipment reliability, compliance, and preventive safety practices. Today, he will speak on adventure equipment, inspection, maintenance, and certification. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Bhushan Poshe.
Thank you very much for having me here on the stage. Which one? It doesn't show. So I'm here to speak about the importance of inspection of our equipments or the gear. More importantly, the land gears, that is the harness, helmets, harness, descender, carabiners, and the ones we use in mountaineering, rock climbing. And how do we do it when we do our inspections or when we work? So as Allied, the company that we have, this is the areas of work that we do. So we have industrial solutions for rope access, which uses the equipment that we also use in mountaineering. So we have rope access, work at height, rescue trainings in industry. For sports, we have mountaineering, climbing, caving, and mountain rescue, adventure parks. In disaster and rescue, we also use the same techniques that we use in mountaineering, but a bit specialized equipments for rope rescue, flood rescue, disaster rescue. We work with NDRFs, SDRFs, and rescue teams. In the special forces, we also use the same equipments. But for their applications for building interventions, commando operations, rescue operations, the adventure activities that we are concerned, or in the land activities, are climbing, mountaineering, adventure parks, canyoning, zip lining, high rope, low rope courses, and also caving. Via Ferrata is something that is more common in Europe. We have not seen here in India. This can be developed if there are some mountains which are available for them. It's a very thrilling activity if you have done, and but it's very much safe at the same time. Mountain rescue, we had a lot of speakers speak about mountain rescue. We have the opportunity to work with Brigadier Abbey Sir at Hawes to train their team for rescue. And also we had been working with a few of the mountaineering institutes to train their instructors for rescue. Apart from the mountains, we also train the special forces, commandos, paras for operation, and the disaster rescue teams of NDRFs, SDRFs for rescue. Coming to the gears, everybody knows what kind of gears that we use. So we have the harness, typical harness, ropes, carabiners, descenders. When I speak of descenders, for the mountaineers, the best thing that comes to their mind is a figure of 8. And everybody knows figure of 8. But a lot of people don't know what are the other descenders that are now used by the technical mountaineering teams, people who are doing rock climbing, or people who are also doing rescue. So these are some things that you should make yourself aware when you are doing a proper rescue, technical rescue, or a mountain rescue, because these things are there to make things efficient, safe, and for your own, not just for the victims, but also the people who are doing the rescue. Here, so there's examples of how industrial equipments are also used in the adventure. So we see a guy rappelling with an industrial helmet, which is typically a hard hat. not a mountaineering helmet which is certified for it. We have a zip line here. We have a person working on it with no helmets. There is no backup for the pulley. And you have a knot that is used between the connectors. A kid wearing an adult helmet. So these are some of the things that are happening in our industry which have a risk. We had a lecture on risk management before. So a major part of risk management and risk assessment is how to use proper gears or the right gears for the right activity. And the second part of risk management is the rescue. Now, I don't know how much of rescue is happening or rescue training is happening with the people who are doing or conducting the expeditions, the adventure parks, and this kind of activities. So the failures that happen in inspection and the equipments are, there are no inspection logbooks that have been maintained for people who are running the adventure parks or clubs or the Mountaineering Institute which are having the gears. These gears are not inspected, and I'm sure there is a lot of lack of awareness of how much inspection needs to be done in a year. So we have a lot of mountaineers years. So what do you think is the proper inspection period before an inspection or before a product can be used? So let's say I buy a product today. When should be the next inspection to be done? Is there anybody who are aware of what are the inspection periods that they do in their organizations?
This is specific to the equipment.
Yeah, so any general, like,
There is no life for a rope. A rope
okay.
will go off in 2 months, depending on the usage.
Absolutely.
Right? The fall factor is there, it will go.
Yeah, and
No timeline.
no timeline. But I'm talking about the inspection. When should you inspect the equipment?
As regularly as possible. It could be monthly.
Yes.
Again, depends on the usage. Okay, whether it's being extensively used, partly used,
Exactly.
or used, totally depends on the usage.
Exactly. And when was the last inspection done at your organization of the equipments? So this is a question that we should ask ourselves.
I was heading that Jambal should be able to answer.
Okay. So we need to have our logbooks for equipment inspection. We should have a retirement timeline, like when the carabiners, the ropes, the helmets, the harness, or descenders, pulleys are worn out. We should know how do we inspect, what are the criteria for inspection, what are the points we have in mind before we discard an equipment. The training of the guides, so there are guides which have limited training, limited exposure, especially to maintain the equipments and also to do the rescue. In industry, it's very simple. Before you do a job and after you do a job, you have to inspect the equipment. Apart from the annual inspection that they have to be done, which is done by a certified inspector. But in case of adventure, mountaineering, rock climbing, or whatever, we don't have any guidelines on what and how to inspect. And so because there is no awareness, there are no trainings, there are no standards, the equipments are just moving around in the organization. And when an incident happens, that's when people start checking the equipments. There is a knowledge gap. Operators lack awareness of what is the safety factor. Sir mentioned the fall factor. Very few people understand what the fall factor is, and if you have a fall factor which is more than 2, you have to absolutely discard all the equipments that are in line of the fall. The safety standards, the certifications, we are now starting to work on these standards, and I am glad to see that there is a lot of initiation from ATOAI, and especially Neeraj sir, who is taking the lead in taking this up with the IS standards. So what happens with the gears? The pulleys, we know that we have in sports pulleys, we have adventure pulleys. In absence of these pulleys, there are a lot of people who use industrial pulleys. Ropes, the general practice is to use EN or UI certified ropes. Dynamic ropes when it comes to mountaineering, rock climbing, but we also see a lot of people using semi-static or static ropes in climbing, which itself is a risk and a hazard because they don't understand what is going to happen when you have a fall. What are the impact forces and shock loading that's going to happen on the climber and also on the anchor that is being used. The, yep, sorry.
That's a killer.
Yeah, and a lot of people still don't, I mean, there is a saying that you use the rope, but what kind of rope? You know, nobody knows what is the difference between a dynamic rope and what are the different types of dynamic ropes, and nobody knows the difference between a dynamic and static rope and what is the elongations that are there. So there is a lot of gap in awareness, and people are still using static ropes at times for lead climbing, which is highly, highly dangerous. You have belay devices. We all know figure of 8. We are still using figure of 8 for belay device. We still lack to use the slot devices or the spring-loaded devices, which are so efficient and so simple and so smooth to operate. Especially in rescue, manual screw gates, we avoid screw gates, also in our industrial rescues. We avoid screw gates. The harnesses we use in adventure park, the one we use in climbing, the ones we use in mountaineering are different standards and also different construction. When we take a belay loop, the belay loop itself, the position of the belay loop can define the position of your device, belay device, and we are still not aware of this. All these things require training, and this is where we want the ATOAI to take a lead on training this kind of clubs or institutions or organizations who are indulging into adventure. The gold standard for adventure safety, the common standards that are used for equipments in adventure industry is UIA and EN certified. These are more relevant to us because the kind of morphology we have or structure we have is similar to the European people. And there is a difference between the European standards, a little bit difference between the European standards and the American standards. The difference is more from the weight aspect and the impact force shock loading aspect rather than the equipment aspect. But we have to be very sensitive when we are using what standards of equipments, what standards are we incorporating in our equipments. We need rigid maintenance, daily, monthly logs, annual inspection. So as per the European standard, the maximum number of months or period before an equipment should be inspected or should go without inspection is 12 months. So within this 12 months, you have to get your equipment inspected by a certified inspector so that you minimize or mitigate the risk which is related to your gears and not to let the faulty gears push into the operations and lead to any incident or an accident which can be fatal. There is a defined life cycle, as we were talking. So the observed life cycle for textile products, I am talking about in use, is generally 5 years, and for metallics, it is 10 years. This is different from a lifetime. When I speak of a lifetime of a product, it means if I buy a harness which is new, I keep it on a shelf and I don't use it. After 10 years, that product, that harness, cannot be used again in an operation. That's the lifetime. For metallic products, the lifetime is unlimited. For any textile or any plastic-related products, helmets, the lifetime is 10 years, which means the maximum life of a textile or a plastic product is 10 years, beyond which you should not be used it. As long as it passes inspection, it can go up to 10 years. So the integration or the total solution that we need is to have the right gears, to have the right training, to have the traceability of the products that we use, a system for inspection, which in conjunction together will lead to the safety of the operation and the people that we are handling as an operator. Our challenges and roadblocks is lack or missing regulations for equipments and also for inspection and operation. There is documentation gap for the logbooks of equipments that are used, how many hours they have been used, any incident that has happened. Retirement, fatigue failures, a lot of failure happen with the ropes. If you leave the rope out in the sun, the polymers or the fibers, filaments of these nylon ropes are going to deteriorate and they are going to fail without any warning. If you use, especially for people who are using metallic equipments at high altitude, at very low temperature, there is a brittleness of the material, even aluminum or stainless steel, and what happens is that the equipment can fail without giving any notice. Even a new equipment can fail without any notice. There are counterfeits that are circulating in the industry. A lot of products are duplicates, which we are not aware, and we are using it because they are cheaper. Emergency readiness, limited rescue gears, and limited training of people who are going to do rescue. So training, whether it is training for operations, whether it's training for rescue, or training for equipment inspection is very critical. Gear inspection, what are the wear patterns, what are the fatigue looks like, what are the counterfeit markers, and correct usage, having the logbook for tracking your gears for your life cycle and retirement. The retirement protocols, you should have a clear mentioned criteria for retiring ropes, harness, and all the hardware that you use. You have your risk assessment. For zipline rope courses, there should be PP inspection, selection, maintenance, SOPs. So we have what we generally do with the industry is we have courses. One of the courses is belay course, but there are other courses that we do. We have adventure park safety courses and adventure instructor safety courses. These are equipments that we are very familiar with. We have helmets. There are different types of helmets for different work. Then there are ropes. So we have static, we have semi-static, and dynamic ropes. Similar with the harness. So as you see the gear loops, on this one you have a vertical gear loop. On the other ones you have a more flatter gear loop. So you have a 90-degree turn in the gear loop, which also affects the kind of belay devices that we use and the way the ropes will turn.
Please repeat.
So we have a gear loop which is vertical. It's more of a belay loop rather than an adventure activity loop. Here we have an adventure harness which has a more flat belay loop. These are adventure activity harnesses. These are not climbing harnesses. So there is a difference between the harnesses. Again, you have kids harnesses which are different than the adult harnesses. Simply because the same logic happens is when we have American standard and European standard, the same happens with kids and the adults. So the kids are very lightweight. They don't generate that much shock for the system to absorb. And finally, the shock that is there goes to the kid, which cannot take it. We have belay devices. The most common is figure of 8. Then we have the slot devices and the latest cam devices, which are kind of auto-locking devices. The different types of carabiners that we have, different pulleys, auto-lock, the track pulleys. Lifespan, as I said, these are plastic products, textile products, and metallic products. The lifetime of plastic is 10 years. Even if you don't use it, lifespan of textile is 10 years from the date of manufacture, not the date of first use. And for metallic products are unlimited, provided you have regular inspection and maintenance of these equipments. This is an example of the inspection checklist that we have for pulley. We have similar checklists for all the products that we have. So whether it's a helmet, whether it's a harness, whether it's a rope, carabiner, descender, ascender, we have similar checklists. If you are interested, you can just download from Petzl website and use it for your operations. This is a sample log that we do when we do our PP inspection. So the kind of product, so it's a seat harness, the serial number, the inspection date, status, whether it has passed or not, the validity, the next inspection, and if there is any observation. On the right-hand side, you see examples of damages and what can you do. So you discard it, or you use it, or you monitor it. This is just an example that we are giving here for your reference. So for zip line safety, there are SOPs. This is an example of what it should be. For equipments, you should have a pre-check inspection from the adventure park operators before you put the equipments. You should have a briefing for the people who are undergoing the activity, and then when you gear up, you make sure that it's done properly, helmets are fitted properly, the harnesses are fitted properly for the right size, the respect to the rides, how do you land, and the post-check. So this is similar to what we do in industry, is pre-check and post-check, so that you make sure that your gear life is sufficient and you make the best out of it with no accidents. Uh, at the end, so this finishes my presentation for equipment inspection. One more thing that I want to touch. We have been talking about adventure. We have been talking about rescue. We want to have 10 steps further is to combine adventure, rescue, and disaster rescue, which means combining adventure tourism and disaster rescue to collaborate and work together. We are training people which are local people for their sustenance, for their livelihood. We can use the same people to train them for disaster rescue, for anything that happens locally. They can be the first responder. So it's CERT is Community-Based Emergency Response Team, which means any disaster, any calamity, any accident happens locally, the same team which are doing the adventure can be used for in the golden hour to do the rescue, which is very simple for them because they know the terrain, they know the shortcuts, and they are the best people because their own people are at stake and risk, and they can do a much better job before the other teams from NDRF or SDRF or special teams can come for the operation. Here we have all the stakeholders, we have the local communities, you have the youth clubs, you have the institutions, you have the NDRF, SDRF, you have the adventure community, you have the clubs. All the people are involved in this operation, and this is a concept which is very close to our heart, and it's our request to people to take up this concept and work on it. We are here to help you in whatever is required, but this is something that is the need of the hour and which can help to save a lot of lives in this world. Thank you so much. You have any questions? Later on? Okay. Thank you. Yep. Yes?
There are murmurs who say that the import of equipment is facing some challenges. Is that true?
There are, sorry, what?
So there are murmurs which says that importing equipment is becoming challenging now.
It is challenging. It is challenging, especially with the standards that are coming up, which want the foreign manufacturers to certify their products to the Indian standards. And this is a challenge that we are also facing, but we are working around with ATOAI, and especially thanks to Neeraj, who is working from our side, to bring a compliance and bring smoothness in this aspect. So there's a lot of work happening, and Neeraj is the best person to speak over it.
What is going to happen is that it is going to get more and more difficult to get this imported.
Yeah, that's the worry.
Because the Bureau of Indian Standards is now coming with the Indian standards. For example, the rope. Okay, now rope is an item which you will not be able to get from outside the country unless there is a foreign manufacturer who has established and is conforming to the Indian standards, for which they will have to take permission. So these are all coming, and yes, so your harnesses, helmets, cramp, everything is in the pipeline. It's just a question of time.
Sad.
Mr. Poshe, we understand that equipment is only as safe as the system surrounding it. Inspection, maintenance, and timely replacement is equally critical.